This is the Code, Deploy, Go Live podcast, episode 2, with Julie Turner and Andrew Connell. This episode is available as a video on our YouTube channel and linked in the show notes. Today, Andrew and I are going to talk about this new podcast, Code, Deploy, Go Live, and what you can expect in the future, when you can expect it, and what we hope to bring you, our new audience. So, this was recorded live on April 21st, 2025. It's the birth of a new empire. Are you ready?
That's a way to start it. Sure.
All right. Well, we're back and we're crazy as ever. We're back and there's no more Cloud Dev Clarity. We've restarted, rebooted, reset, and changed our names to Code, Deploy, Go Live. And I love it. So we're back. And so my name is Julie Turner. I am the partner and CTO with Sympraxis Consulting. We are a very small boutique consulting firm where everyone works out of their home, and we sort of collaborate together to help our clients deploy and implement Microsoft 365. I specialize in extensibility for Microsoft 365. So that means I write a lot of code and I think a lot about architecture and solution architecture and extensibility, as I was sort of saying. So that's my focus area. Andrew, can you introduce yourself to our fine audience?
I don't know who I am. I was hoping you were going to introduce myself.
Yeah, I would try to introduce you, but no one knows who you are.
I'm Andrew Connell, first-time caller, long-time listener. I'm the
Awesome.
founder of Voitanos, where I focus on Microsoft 365 developer education, and making you experts at the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. I'm in Northeast Florida. I'm in a place called St. John's, Florida. And this is, I guess, my third podcast. I did one for a couple years with a friend of mine. I just forgot the name of it. The Microsoft Cloud Show. Actually, was going to wear one of my shirts.
I hope CJ is not listening.
No, I'm sure he's not going to listen. I was going to wear one of our shirts, the very first one, but anyway, so I'm really looking forward to doing this. CJ and I ran a podcast for many years, 450 episodes. We stopped it a couple of years ago, and over time, I missed doing this, and I've been wanting to do another show. And Julie and I did a show last year. That we'll talk a little bit about in a minute, I guess. But it was more that we wanted to do something different. We wanted to have a more of a mission behind it and stuff. So this is the start, I guess, of our new show that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. I mean, Cloud Dev Clarity was sort of a trial run, I think. It was do you and I, are we able to sort of run a podcast in a way that feels authentic and natural to us? And are we able to, figure it out and make it work? And I think that Cloud Dev Clarity was that test, and it went pretty well. We both really enjoyed it. We took a break while we sort of reset some things in our own work lives. And now we're back together again. So we're excited about that. We're excited about formalizing this to make it, instead of just a bunch of episodes that we sort of drop out, we're going to really formalize the format. It's going to be somewhat similar to what you did with CJ, the MS Cloud show. But we're going to formalize that every 2 weeks cadence. So every 2 weeks, you'll be able to hear a new episode from us on whatever that topic might be. But essentially, we're trying to establish a podcast that's going to, where the Microsoft Cloud or MS Cloud show that you did with CJ sort of was more high level, I would say. We're really going to dive into what you and I love most, which is full stack development, right? So that's what we focus on. We do client-side development. We do server-side, cloud server-side development. And so we really wanted a place where we could share our opinions, share our thoughts, share what we know, share our knowledge, and talk to people who are in this space as well, that to sort of address that full stack development ecosystem around Microsoft, right? So that's generally where we're coming from and what we're intending to do. Bi-weekly, right? So
Yep.
Wednesday, Thursday drop, we're not exactly sure, but hopefully around then,
Yeah.
every other week. So that's our general plan. Um, the name, that was tricky to come up with. What were
Yeah.
your thoughts when we sort of figured that out? Like, I know what I was thinking, but
Yeah.
it was it took us months,
It
literally.
yeah, it took us a long time to come up with this, and, I like, I wanna just comment a little bit of stuff that you just said a second ago, is I agree, like, this is we Cloud Dev Clarity, we had an idea of what we wanted to cover, but one of the things that's different about this, I mean, I enjoyed that project we did, and we kept trying to restart it, and I know I was a big hold up, for a lot of it with a lot of work stuff that was going on for me, but we've been very deliberate, if anything, maybe too deliberate or too slow, to make sure that's something we were gonna be able to maintain. The big thing from this, I mean, there's some inspiration that we're taking from other shows, including the one that Chris Johnson and I did, CJ and I did for a while, the Microsoft Cloud Show. But this is you and me. This is our thing, and we're gonna make it our own. I was really looking forward. I really want to do this with you because I think you and I have a good rapport together to where we agree on a lot of stuff, but we also disagree on a lot of stuff. But we're
And
also
we
very
agree to disagree.
we agree to disagree. There's some things that we don't agree to disagree on. Those will come in future episodes. I'm sure we will cover those. But I think it's more that I wanted to do this specifically with you, Julie, because well, I mean, you're when you have an opinion, you're going to share it, and if I say something and you don't agree with, you're gonna make it clear, or you're gonna make it very known, which I appreciate that, and that's a good thing. Because
Yeah,
people
for
we want to
sure.
make sure people get different perspectives. Um, so, and yeah, like you said, the other thing that's gonna be a big thing with this show that, I feel strongly about from when CG and I did it was a consistent cadence. And so I'm gonna say we're gonna start with a biweekly, and we will have a very you'll expect it every the day that we say it's gonna come out.
Yep.
Um, I also too am looking at our notes and I see that we said Wednesday/Thursday, and that's something we probably should have decided before we started recording this,
Yeah, we
but don't worry.
probably should have. We're
When
not gonna get this whole thing perfect. That
No.
we know. This is our first episode. It's gonna be what it is. So
It's always fun
we
to go
didn't
back
decide that
30
one.
episodes. Yeah, it's always fun to go back 30 episodes and find out, like, how do we do this for oh my god, it was terrible. Um, but so you talk about the name and why do we wanna do the name here? And
Yeah.
I like Cloud Dive Clarity. I like the name we came up with for the last show, but for this one, um, we got a little bit of help from our friend. We
Yep.
gave it a lot of ideas. Our friend is known by ChatGPT. But that was more or less just the inspiration of like, here's what we're going for, here's who we're trying to talk to. And for me, the name was I like the term full stack web developers, right? And that's
Mhm.
or full stack developer. And that's a real thing. For a while, that was just a buzzwordy kind of like lumberjacky kind of a term. Today, though, I think it's a real term and you look at a bunch of job boards. And so it's a
Mhm.
real like you see it on Indeed and Monster, you see that they actually refer to this. A a full stack developer is someone who primarily builds client side or web apps,
Mhm.
and they also can do the server side stuff that is required to facilitate the client side app. So
Exactly.
somebody, you and me, we're going to primarily be building a web app, but we can stand up like we can do Azure functions for like REST APIs. We can do
Yep.
storage on the back end. We can do queues, all that kind of stuff. Um,
Database, whatever that
database,
might be. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And Microsoft calls the full stack Microsoft likes to refer to the term full stack. They don't use full stack. They use code first or pro code. I
Yep.
personally hate those terms, um, because I think
Well,
they
I think it's
imply
too
that
limiting.
I think it's too limiting as well. I think
Yeah.
when you say pro code, it means if you're a newbie or you're just getting into this, it's not for you, or you're not welcome. And code first, I also don't think is the right thing to say because that's not always the case.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's more so it defines kind of like who is this for? It's primarily for, full stack web developers. So you do client side, server side. It is also not limited, even though people who are familiar with us are going to think we're limiting it to like Microsoft 365, both because it's also the work that we do, but we're not going to limit it to Microsoft 365. There will probably be a very strong like taste to it.
Yeah, I have to think we'll lean in that direction, but yeah, I mean, if there's something that's interesting and it hasn't nothing to do with the Microsoft stack, that might be part of our show. So for sure.
Agreed. In terms of the other side though, like what the name isn't, do you want to share like what we're thinking, like you learn as much about something when you say like, what do you like? And who is this for? And then
Right,
you learn
right.
as much about it. Who is it not for? Who are we not trying to serve?
Yeah, and I think there's so much coverage right now for people that are makers, low code people, no code, and I think that even is such an overloaded term. People are starting to even question what low code means anymore, because does that mean it has curly braces? It doesn't have curly braces? Like, what does that all mean? And I think it's confusing, but if it has to do with sort of the Power Platform for Microsoft 365, to use that term that many people would understand, we're not going to be covering much of, if anything, unless it's sort of newsy juxtaposition to something that we're talking about that affects full stack developers. We're just not going to be covering that really. And similarly, admins of Microsoft 365, or even people who would self-identify as IT pro, this is probably not going to be much for them again, unless it juxtapositions something, we're talking about some settings or whatever that make something that we're talking about as a full stack developer would affect you, right? Like you need to know that this thing is available or not available. So um, I definitely think that is not going to be our audience. Doesn't mean we won't welcome you to listen. It's probably one of the things that I think is kind of important that we don't that people don't talk about enough is understanding, if it's not your role, what does that role do, and what's the breadth of what that role can do. I do a talk about Microsoft 365 extensibility. That's just a sort of an introductory thing. And I do that primarily as my audience, not being developers. Like I want the business development people, I want the IT pros, I want the admins, I want the information architects, I want all those people to come to that talk. Even though I'm a developer and I'm talking about things that full stack developers do, I want them to come so that they understand the lingo, understand what's available. Because if they don't understand what's available, then you can't work it into your solution or understand that it can be part of your solution. And I think that's a huge miss if we don't do that. So yes, we're going to, address mostly primarily full stack web developers. But if you're one of those other roles, it's certainly a good thing to just know what's going on. And you and I have talked about this before. We often listen to podcasts not necessarily to like learn something, but to be aware of what's happening in the broader world. Like I do listen to a podcast that's all about front end design. I don't do design. I make Stefan do all my design. But is it good for me to know all the lingo, know what's going on, so that I can say to Stefan, hey, I just heard about this new CSS property. That's pretty cool. Is that for us? Is that something we're going to use? And then he usually explains to me why I don't know what I'm doing, which is fun. But knowing the lingo, knowing to ask, knowing that it's out there, I think is really powerful. So yes, our content is going to lean towards full stack developers, but I think, there's a place for everyone.
Yeah, anybody is welcome to listen to. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's more that when you come here, think about it like a restaurant.
Yeah.
We have an Italian restaurant here. If you come in looking for the best like sushi, that's not what we're doing here. But you're welcome to come in if you're looking for a chicken parmesan. So, like same with you. I am very much I'm very much want to serve like the full stack developer and talk about full stack developer topics. And who knows, we will maybe have somebody or even as a guest to talk about things not specifically around the stack dev side. It's more on the maker side. But I mean, primarily, I'd say like, who is our audience we serving? This is the audience that we're trying to serve. And if you're an IT pro, you want to jump in and understand something better, on not understanding what we're talking about, we want to hear from you. I want to know like what's confusing. I'm listening to the MS IT Pro podcast with Ben and Scott to find out, more on the admin side. I mean, it's like, am I going to fit their audience? Every once in a while, I'm a guest on their show. They bring me on to talk about dev stuff, to expose it to them. So yeah, that's right. That's how I would just say with it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So we're primarily going to be a video first show, right, on YouTube. But we're also going to have an audio feed. So you have all the names, the fancy names, because you're on top of all this stuff much better than I am. But all the fancy feeds that you can be on: Apple Podcasts,
Yeah.
Spotify Podcasts, all the podcast feeds. We'll post the audio feed. So if you'd rather listen and not see our mugs,
Yeah.
we understand,
It-
as do our spouses.
yeah.
You know,
It's a primarily an audio. It's primarily an audio show, but yeah, we're gonna do. It's gonna be done. Sorry, it's primarily a video show, but you will get value out of this listening to it in your earbuds. So
yeah,
we're not going to be doing a bunch of demos. Every once in a while, we may end up doing something like that. We may show something, but it is going to be primarily be posted to YouTube as a YouTube based show, as a YouTube based podcast. But we will definitely syndicate it on all the popular feeds from Apple Podcasts to Spotify, YouTube Music as well. So all the big ones. I mean, we'll post it everywhere, maybe even Apple Music, and we'll eventually get it to as many as we possibly can to reach as many places. So
right.
you can, whatever your flavor is, whatever you prefer, we'll make sure we want
Yeah,
to be able to serve that as well. But I mean, yeah, it's primarily, we're doing, as you can see now with the video, or as people who are actually watching it,
you're all
it
right.
is like the homepage is essentially going to be a site for it as well. But the page is really going to be the YouTube channel that we stood up for this.
Yeah, well, that'll all probably come later. So
Yeah.
the show itself, and I sort of alluded this earlier when I referenced, your podcast, or yeah, your work with CJ. We're going to do some things that are kind of similar. I mean, we use that as a little bit of a blueprint, and like things that have worked well for you too. I mean, man, you did it for all those years. So, you learn something from that. Throwing out the baby with the bathwater doesn't help. We're definitely going to riff on topics, because one of the things we enjoy doing is picking a topic and batting it back and forth between each other. So that's definitely going to be a big part of when we pick a topic and we're just talking about it. That's going to be what that is. We will bring in sort of that latest news aspect. You guys did that with the cloud show. I think that was important. I think it helps people to keep up to date with things they may not have heard of. Absolutely, we will share things that we have seen in the news, and what we think about those. We might have feature topic shows. So, similar to like things we did on Cloud Dev Clarity, having our hooks versus component discussion, not fight, discussion. We'll do those kinds of topics where you and I are kind of, again, doing that riffing off of them. Or we might do interviews, right?
Mhm.
So that's something we didn't do with Cloud Dev Clarity. It's something you guys did with the Cloud Show. We'll definitely sort of bring that idea back, and
Mhm.
bring on people that we like talking to, that have an interesting point of view on that addresses the audience that we sort of talked about already. And
I was gonna say those interesting shows will be the ones that we get to come on the show don't like talking to. So those will be the real fun to get into. Just kidding.
well
Nope.
played.
I will remain nameless.
And to keep it fun, we will bring back the picks, which you guys did with the cloud show. I think that was fun and interesting. What is going to change with the picks, though, I have to point this out because I said
Wait,
this
wait,
a
wait,
little
wait,
earlier.
wait, hold on.
Oh,
Don't ruin. They're gonna have to tune in and hear what each one of us. If we're
oh
gonna do a
yeah. I'm just
theme,
sort of say all I was gonna say is you and I do not have the same sort of hobbies and side things. So I think we'll get a lot more diversity in the future with the picks. That's all I'm saying.
okay.
That's all
I
I
thought
was
you were going
saying.
in a different direction, and you're gonna kind
No,
of like
no, no,
peel back the
no.
curtain.
I
I'm like,
just wanted
no,
to
yeah,
say I
yeah.
think we will see a lot more diversity in our picks because we don't share hobbies the same way. Some, but not
But
most.
but for those of you who are on the podcast, I'm still into race cars. I'm still into Lego. I'm still into
Yeah,
space stuff.
you're
So
gonna get space,
yeah,
Lego, race cars, all of that's gonna come from AC. You won't be left behind if you miss that. But I will
not
be
all of it,
bringing
not all of it.
different things to the picks.
Sure.
Um, we're hoping to keep these things 30 minutes, right? We're almost 20 in. We'll see 30, 60 minutes. It just depends, right? I mean, somewhere more than 20 and somewhere less than 60. But we're not going to try to pigeonhole ourselves in. If the conversation's good, the topic's good, we're going to just let it ride. So you won't be able to time your workout to it unless you want a variable workout. So that we'll leave that
Change
that.
change the speed of the playback. You want to go slower? You want to go
Oh, well,
faster?
that's a good point. I
Go whatever.
hadn't thought of that.
Depends on what your cardio is looking at that day. If you're going for high reps and like slow,
Right. Yeah, valid, valid. I didn't even think that.
yeah.
All right. So we're starting a little bit small. We're gonna, bring things in. We've sort of talked about this. We'll ramp up as we go. But we have the podcast, uh, but we want to provide ways for people to reach us, right? Because
Mhm,
part of the good that we think we'll get out of this is if we have a two-way conversation with our prospective audience, right? And so
mhm,
we'll definitely work on, it might not be available day one, but we'll work on a newsletter.
mhm.
We'll definitely have YouTube, and we have ways to socialize on YouTube with the comments and some other things that we can do on YouTube.
Yep,
And we will
post.
have the socials, right? So we'll
Mhm,
have LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and maybe some other things, but those two for sure.
mhm,
So we'll have ways for people to interact with us. And I think that's important. And then also, of course, you and I have those things, right? So there's always the way that you could reach out to either Simpraxis or me personally or Voitanos or Andrew personally. You'll be able to reach out to us in those ways and use that as a way to communicate with us about ideas that you might have, questions that you might have.
mhm,
Um, topic ideas is what I more meant by that. People you think we should interview, products that are interesting, news
mhm.
items that are interesting, anything like that. We're pretty open to hear. Is there anything I'm left out? I can't think of anything.
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, it's like we're gonna be we are present on this the podcast will be has a footprint on the social platforms that you and I are most active in, which is LinkedIn and Blue Sky. We also, I mean, we're squatting on a bunch of names too, but I mean, it's like we're
Sure. Yeah.
squatting a bunch of like social properties, but still, it's primarily going to be Blue Sky. It's primarily going to be LinkedIn. Those are already set up; those are already there, so you can go hit all of those.
Yep.
We are the website that we have is codedeploygo.live, to where you can get to.
So fancy.
All right, it's cool. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I do
So
too.
you'll be able to find us there, and you'll also be able to sign up for our newsletter there. The newsletter be a priority to make sure that is up and running by the time you hear this. So we're recording a couple episodes early, and we're going to do a
Yeah.
drop of a few episodes, so we don't just launch a new podcast and it's like one episode is an intro. We like to give you a little bit of meat, not along just the menu. So the newsletter intended to be there. You subscribe to the newsletter. You'll get heads up on episodes that are coming. If we want to get feedback from people, best way to do that, reaching out to you via email. We're not going to be like spamming you in email and that stuff. Don't worry about that.
Right.
But it's
Right.
also a good way for us to stay in touch with you, tell you about stuff, plans that we have that are coming up. It'll also be shared on socials. So however you like to get this stuff, it'll be there. But if you sign up for the newsletter, when a new episode comes out, you'll get the show notes with any of the links of stuff that we refer to. Those will be sent straight to your inbox. So it'll be easy for you to find out, when is a new episode drop, what links are available, stuff like that. So that'll make it a little bit easier instead of, when you're in the car and you're listening to us, hopefully you're not just watching us in the car unless somebody else
That
is
would be
driving
bad.
for you.
Yes,
But
right.
when you're in the car and you're listening to us and you're like, oh, they just said this, and you go, I gotta write down that link. Like, don't worry, if you subscribe to the newsletter, it's gonna be in your inbox, so you're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's the big thing. I think where we'll end up, where you just keep in touch with us and stuff.
Yeah, one of the other good aspects of being in that newsletter and knowing what upcoming episodes are, if we're doing an interview, you'll know about it ahead of time. And then, if you have questions for that person, like, oh, hey, you're going to talk to, whomever, I really love to know XYZ from them. Again, that's another way that you can sort of reach out,
Yep.
and help us help you, so to
Yep.
speak, right? Yeah.
Totally. Totally. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Yep.
So from the perspective of the formality of the show, your and my business arms, shall we say, are going to be the primary sponsors of the show to begin with. I mean, maybe one day that'll be more, but right at the beginning, you'll definitely see that Simpraxis and Voitanos are sort of the hosts of this show. So that will be coming up. And then, we've said it a bunch of times, but, what do you want to hear? What's some of the ideas that you have about things that could we could discuss or we could address? I think this will be better if we have that interactivity. I definitely know that from doing Ask and Praxis a week, every other week. Praxis does that bi-weekly Ask and Praxis. And, we have about 20 people that come and join us for those live recordings. And that interactivity in the chat is how we decide what our next conversation is going to be, to try to, answer the questions that were asked by the people that were joining us live. And then even the interactivity, like maybe we get something wrong and the somebody in the chat goes, "Hey, I tried that and it did XYZ." So those are important aspects of the conversation, and I think why this will be more helpful to people if you interact with us. So don't just sit back and think we're untouchable in that way. We definitely want to hear from you.
What Julia's saying is we are totally open to being live fact checked if there's a way that we can facilitate. Please feel free to tell
I
either one
wasn't
we are
saying
wrong.
that, but that's fine. I'm fine with it. I'm open to being fact checked.
I'm looking forward to this. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And look, a little bit of behind the scenes kind of stuff. I reached out to Julie about this probably 6 months ago, saying that
At
this is something I
least.
really wanted to work on. And I had thought a lot about it. I put a lot of thought behind it. I made sure that she's the one that I wanted to talk to about this, like going, yep, I definitely want to push this. I want to do a show again. I don't want to do a solo show. I definitely want to do another show again like this. I've been involved in other shows as well, like the Microsoft 365 developer podcast with Jeremy Thake. When I probably was I did not look far enough into the future on like what did my workload look like over the next couple months, and then right after I kicked it off, it's like, cool, let's do it. And I was the holdup, but we're finally doing
It
now.
happens.
Once we have it on the schedule and we have a commitment, which we do now, we have a regular cadence of when we're going to get together and record. Then it's gonna happen. So hopefully this is the start. The intention is for this to be the start of many, many, many episodes. Hearing us in your earbuds. Hopefully that's a good thing. Hopefully it's not a bad thing. Hopefully a bunch of you who are, if you were a long time like Microsoft Cloud Show listener, sound off and let us know that, hey, coming over and listening to it. Love to have you join us here and subscribe to the show and just give us your thoughts, give us your feedback. What things do you like? What do you not like? What do you wish that we would do differently? Another thing too that Julie and I will probably do, at the beginning of the show when we're just kind of doing a little bit of banter and sharing what's new with in our lives. Don't worry, you're not going to hear 20 minutes of us, going on about, family stuff and all that kind of thing. It's more like, we're people. And that was strangely enough when CJ and I did that. It was one of the parts that people liked the most about the show was like, we love to hear the updates, what's going on. We love the picks. And then the news was really cool. It's like, but what about the featured section that we did all the research on and we planned it? I was like, yeah, it was good. I'm like, what? So let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. I mean, it's like, when you do a podcast, you do a video show like this, you don't get to have the interaction and the feedback to see like what's landing, not landing. So let us know, please just share with us. We are totally open. And if it's something that, we're interested in working on and we're interested in doing and you're interested in it, that'd be great. But yeah, that's would be my biggest ask is subscribe to the show, let your friends know about the shows, share it on your socials, wherever you are. We'd love to get as many people and listening to this and grow the audience with this as we possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great intro. Well done.
I would think so. You did it. You owned it. Julie was our host of episode 1. And it was awesome. It was the best episode 1 ever. Definitely better than what CJ and I did. Podcast. That's for the cloud show.
Oh, well, I had some practice.
So, is that it for show 1? Are we moving on?
I think that's it.
Awesome.
I think we did it. That's a wrap. Did you like this episode? Please like and share it with your friends. We are on YouTube, Blue Sky, and LinkedIn. All the links are in the video description. If you have a question, head to codedeploygo.live where you can send it in. Also, sign up for our mailing list on our site at codedeploygo.live to learn about future episodes, opportunities for listeners, and get the show notes from each episode sent straight to your inbox. We'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks.